We're here at the Supreme Court hearing room. My name is Virginia Ferrara, and I am interviewing Rosemarie Alderette as part of the Senior Lawyers Oral History Program. Rosemarie was clerk of the Supreme Court for 29 years?
I have worked here 29 years.
Worked here 29 years. Is it okay if I call you Rosie?
Oh, absolutely.
Now, the date. I'm supposed to say the date. It is June 17th, 2008. Now, you were clerk of the court for a lot of years and worked here a lot of years. When you were a little girl, did you plan to become a clerk of a Supreme Court?
I didn't really know what a Supreme Court was. Didn't have any contact with lawyers. Back in those days, we did our typing in shorthand and became secretaries.
And when were those days?
When was it?
Yes.
Okay, I was born in 1923.
Okay. And grew up where?
And I was born in Lockhart, Texas, and grew up in Houston.
Okay.
Education-wise and everything.
And did you go on to college or graduate school?
I went to the University of Houston, and then I went to work.
Where did you go to work?
With a steel company. It was wartime, and steel was a big item. And so I was the secretary and switchboard with that company. And then I got married, and that's what young girls thought about. We never thought about ambitious. I never had an ambition in my life.
Well, you ambition to get married, no doubt. We all had that.
So, and then when I divorced, I moved to Santa Fe.
Any particular reason?
Yes.
You have friends here?
No. I got a call from someone that knew somebody in Santa Fe. I had never heard of Santa Fe in my life. She said, would you be free to come up and take care of a terminal carcinoma patient? Take her from the hospital and stay with her till where? And like I said, I didn't know where Santa Fe was, and so but because I'm a free spirit, I got Stephen, and we came up and took care of Eloise until her husband was a lawyer by the John Wilkinson. I don't know if you ever ran into him, but anyhow, that was her husband. And when she got to hallucinating, she called me in one morning. She said, "You're going to live in Santa Fe." I said, "Oh, I don't think so." She said, "No, and I'm going to tell you where you're going to live." She told me an address and that insisted that he go by and check it out. He went by and he was knocking on the door. Do you remember Josephine Bell from Josephine's up at La Posada, the dress shop? Well, that's who came over, jumped the fence, and asked him. And so she already knew him, but they had a brief conversation, and she said, "I just got a telephone call from these people. They've been transferred."
What?
So, lo and behold, I ended up not knowing but one person in Santa Fe, 2 kids, no child support, and I had to go. I worked 3 jobs when I moved up here, but I came to Santa Fe, and 2 days later, Merle Houck came by and she said, "Do you have a job?" I said, "No."
Who came by?
Merle Houck. That was the one person that I got introduced to while I was taking care of this lady.
Okay.
And I said, "No, I don't have a job. I'm waiting." She said, "Well, my husband's secretary just quit, and they really could use them." I had no legal experience. I had been working for a neuropsychiatrist, but Mr. Houck was delighted when I interviewed him. He said, "Neuropsychiatrist, you'll fit right in." He said, "You're hired."
Now, Mr. Houck, that's Howard Houck?
Howard Houck was the city attorney at the time.
In Santa Fe?
In Santa Fe.
And this was when again?
Well, it was got to have been before 63 because I came in the clerk's office at 63.
Okay.
I didn't keep track of date. That we moved very fast. But the house was beautiful, and it had fruit trees and grass for the dog and everything. It was just beautiful.
Now, when did you become employed by the court?
I went to Albuquerque with Mr. Halk and then came back up when John and I married. And
John is John Alderette?
John Alderette.
Yes.
And I was hired on 7/15/63 as a deputy clerk for Lowell Green down here.
Lowell Green is?
The clerk before me.
Okay. And what was the court like when you first came here?
Very dignified, of course. To me, I was absolutely in awe that I was working for the Supreme Court justices, and it was it was kind of scary at first because I'm a person that's got a one-track mind. If you tell me to do something, I do it. So I worked for them very hard, and Lowell quit 6 years later, just kind of out of the blue. And they had to advertise for positions, and I happened to know that there were 3 men and 1 woman applied for the clerk's job, and I was the only woman. And lo and behold, I was the only one that had experience in the courtroom at the Supreme Court, so I really had an advantage. But they came down that morning. We were getting ready to go into court, and they said, we're going to let you try it, see if you can do this work. And we've cut the salary $5,000. It didn't make me mad, but it made me determined that I was going to be the best clerk they ever had.
Now, what did they say why they were cutting the salary, $5,000?
I'm sure it was because I was a woman.
Uh-huh.
But I knew the picture on the wall said that if they hire this man who's had no experience, I was going to do the work and he was going to get the salary and the title. Gee, we don't do that.
And this was in 1967?
Yes, because I came on as a deputy in 1963. I became the clerk in 1969, and I retired in 1992, and that was my 29 years.
And who exactly hired you to be clerk?
It took all 5 justices.
Do you remember who they were?
Well, I know Judge Noble was the chief.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Judge Compton was still up there.
Okay.
It was the old court, the proper one that we didn't have women. We didn't even have ladies' bathrooms on this 2nd floor. And they had spittoons still on by the drinking fountain and on the court up there where the judges could use it if they needed to.
Did they ever?
I didn't look.
Well, what does one do as clerk of the court?
You're charged with the management of the cases as far as where it belongs, in what court. You have to check that. You have to assign a justice. They had a secret list that I used where we got the panels from. That way nobody could fix the court. And that was the main thing, because that was our initial burden, the case management. And then I did inaugurations. I did bar exams.
Inaugurations of what?
With governor.
Oh.
And worked with the state police and the National Guard on security and transportation and stuff like that.
Is that because one of the justices will swear in the governor?
Well, it was just, that was the protocol when I came on board, that my duty was taking care of, well, the court, but as a courtesy, the court arranged the swearing-in ceremony.
Okay. And you said you administered the bar exam?
Yes, for these many years, twice a year, and we took it to Albuquerque finally. The facilities here were getting too small, but did the bar exam twice and twice a year, and kept track of all the new attorneys coming in and checked their background to see if any of them had done anything naughty.
Did you find any naughty ones?
Yes, we did, and they didn't take the bar exam.
Uh-huh. So now, you kind of, in those days, were, well, do you know Carol Skiva, who worked for the Board of Bar Examiners?
Yes,
And
she took my place.
as in that role only. So they
Yeah.
have one person who does just that now,
Right.
not the clerk.
No.
No. Do you have any interesting bar exam stories? Anybody ever pass out or anything?
Oh, I had one that, and you probably know him, that got boils on his bottom every time he got to take the bar exam. And so we finally had to lay him down. So,
To take the bar exam?
yeah. He wasn't the only one that took it on the floor. If they had a bad back or something, well, seats weren't very comfortable.
Yeah.
But I've had them in labor. But I always checked to see if I had a doctor on board taking the bar exam, so that if I got into any real difficulty, I had somebody to back up. It was different.
How many people in labor did you ever have?
Oh, about 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they finish the exam, or did they?
One of them didn't know she was in labor, and as we approached the last part of the bar exam, all she told me was, she says, "I don't really feel so good." And so when she left the bar exam, she finished it, she went back to the motel and proceeded to the contractions, I think you call it.
Yeah.
But I was a walking drugstore for the bar exam. I took one of everything that anybody could want, the Pepto-Bismol, stuff for diarrhea. They all had diarrhea, but they were so nervous. But I would Mother Tums, and I took candy and snacks in case they got hungry, and took care of any little problem that had come up that I could do.
Yeah.
And that's what made it so interesting. I was literally on call.
Yes, I guess you were. Now, over the years, how many justices would you say you worked for?
Do you
Ballpark.
know that I did not pass that little landmark and add them up last night? I'm sorry.
What would you say, like 40 maybe, or 30?
Would a bunch cover it?
A bunch, okay, you worked for a bunch. Who among them stand out in your mind most as being memorable, or either good or bad? I know you...
Attorneys?
No, judges.
Judges.
Justices, excuse me.
Justices, okay. I'm not allowed to talk about the court.
Okay.
It protects the integrity of the court and of the clerk's office. We're never misquoted if we don't say anything.
So you can't tell us who was wonderful in your mind?
Nope, they were all just great.
You told Justice Daniels a few minutes ago about a story about a dog. Can you tell us about that?
Not really, because Jetsos is still alive, and he was very, very, very upset. And I wouldn't want him to get upset with me all over again.
But his dog died while he was out of town, and you took care of it,
He
right?
was down in Mexico. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Jetsosa was.
So I guess the next question about behind-the-scenes scandals is going to have to go by the way.
Yes, but I will tell you that what Judge Franchini did after the thing with the dog, Rita's sister died, and the judge quietly called me up to chambers, and he said, were you notified? And I said, yes, we've made arrangements. He said, I'm sure glad they didn't call you. Which led me to him. He had a good laugh.
Oh, yeah. Now, how about attorneys that you've observed? Any standouts there, good or bad?
You've had good ones and you've had bad ones, but I don't feel it's ever my place to pass judgment on them. I knew them from the time they started through, and we taught them appellate practice, by the way, after they got into the bar. We had a little talk with them about appellate practice and how you accomplish getting into the appellate court. So, but that's, like I say, I wasn't on I didn't hear the oral argument to critique it. I was interested in making sure that the recording machine was going and that they were obeying the lights that came on when they had taken up their time. But I didn't really.
No critiques?
No.
Gosh, do you have any other stories you can tell us?
Well, I will tell you about you remember when they had the riots at the penitentiary?
Yes.
They brought all the inmates, I guess, who had made it through that, but they were all in shackles, ankles and hands, and they all had a petition for writ of habeas corpus, and all the officers of the court that were there in the police department, everybody had to check their guns in my office because they weren't allowed to take them into the courtroom. We had a DA at that time. He left his gun here, and he called me that night because he didn't miss it until he was getting ready to go to bed. I love it.
So they brought all the prisoners in
Every
person?
one of them, and set them all in the little chairs and took the...
About how many were there?
Oh, quite a few. And
A bunch?
And they had all been naughty.
Huh.
Yeah. The attorneys who live out of north of town, I had two that found the little boogers in her garage, and she knew there was somebody in there because she saw the blood on the car, and so they went in and called the police after locking the door, but the guy was in her garage, the inmate.
Did he escape from there or from
The
here?
police got him. Oh, well, this was that during the riot when they were,
okay.
everybody was loose.
Running wild. Any other outstanding moments?
Oh, well, yeah, we had them pass out.
Attorneys?
Before oral argument. Tension.
Kind of an extension of the bar exam?
No, this was during oral argument, and of course, the custodial staff is right there next to the courtroom, and so we hollered for one of them, but he went to find somebody with authority to do a doctoring part, because I didn't have it and neither did the custodian. But somehow we all got mixed up in our, and when we came back to the courtroom we couldn't find this guy. He was like stretched out on the floor, and I went and got Poola and I said, "What did you do with him?" Oh, he said, "He's in the robing room," and the door was closed. And so after that, I called the Red Cross, and we took a course in CPR.
Ah. So you didn't lose anybody in court?
No. But we lost him literally.
I hate to repeat myself, but anything else you'd like to tell us about your days as clerk?
I could be here all night and all day telling you things that happened at this course.
Oh, well, give us a couple more. We have all day.
No, you're skating on thin ice. But they've always been, I don't think we had anybody ever pass out before except that one attorney that I knew of. But can I tell you one way on the inside, just and use names, Justice Payne, they love to play tricks on each other on the second floor. And Judge Payne, it was Judge Easley's birthday.
Whose birthday?
Easley. And Judge Payne brought the cake and the punch, and everybody always had a little party. And he said Yurda was out of town. That was his wife. The reason he baked it. He made it out of Bisquick, and the icing was Crisco with food coloring in it, and the punch was ice water, and you can imagine it stuck in your mouth. And Judge Easley was so embarrassed because there wasn't anybody saying, "Oh, isn't this good?" And so he says, "I think I'll have another piece." Please don't. One of my deputies came back downstairs and she says, "I'm going to be sick." So I called back up and I said, "I have a deputy that is sick from eating the cake. Should we take her and get her stomach pumped?" He came running down. We did not have to take her to but he picked up the cake and dumped it. We were all dumping it anyhow. It was so awful. And Foster Handed, you remember Foster?
I remember Foster.
Well, he was a law clerk. I think wasn't he with Judge Reardon?
I don't remember for whom.
Well, Foster was very proper. And when it came time for his birthday, we were all standing around having our cake and talking about him. And in walks the policeman. And you're not supposed to do this. But I don't know who pulled a string and got the police to come over and serve Foster with a lawsuit, a paternity, and he's a bachelor. And so he turned red and he turned white and he turned red again. Of course, we were just dying laughing. But that was Foster's initiation. But they used to put things in the desk drawers, firecrackers for one thing. And like I say, our time up here was, and oh yeah, and the animal feet would be under the desk, and we'd go get Tula to get the thing out from we didn't even know what it was, but it was a phony pair of feet, animal, was under the desk.
Now, who had those under their desk?
Judge Payne did those. Well, they did it to each other. Judge Reardon stuffed a dummy and put it under his desk one evening and forgot to tell the housekeeper. So here she walks in to clean the office, and these two legs were out, and she thought it was the judge that had passed out on the. Oh, a lot of fun.
Those hijinks at the court, it sounds like.
Yep, and it kept you from ever getting bored.
I would think so. Well, now, unless you have some other stories you'd like to share.
No, that's probably as far as I can go.
Can you tell us about your family?
About what?
Your family?
Oh, I have two sons. The oldest would be known as a computer nerd. He got his master's in computer science.
What's his name?
Frank Bass. He lives in Montgomery, Alabama. He's the father of the little ball player.
Oh, well, tell us about the ball player.
Well, he's 26 years old.
And what's his name?
Brian Bass. And he is playing for the Minnesota Twins.
And what position?
Pitcher. And 26 years old, he's doing a very good job.
Must be exciting. Do you catch all the games?
They don't broadcast I can't. He's got his computer fixed so it can pick up on the internet, but I don't mind. He fixed my computer the last time he was over here and haven't been able to play it since.
And you have another son?
Kids. The youngest is an attorney in Albuquerque and general practice of law.
And his name is?
Stephen Bass.
Okay.
And his assignment is taking care of Mama.
Is he doing a good job?
Oh yeah, and I don't take the legal stuff to him because I don't think he'd see things my way. Kind of hard to control a kid, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's probably even harder to control your mom.
Well, very, very true.
Now, you're now retired. Is that correct?
Never tired?
You're now retired.
Yes.
And what do you do for fun nowadays?
Well, running in and out of that hospital over there was the main entertainment for a few years in
What hospital?
St. Vincent's.
Okay.
But I volunteered at St. Vincent's Hospital and have for over 20 years. And that's when I went to school because took the last shift on the switchboard. And so I had time to do my homework, but College of Santa Fe has a program, Open Studies, and you can go to school at nights and on weekends. And so I did, and because they froze my salary and wouldn't let me have a raise until I had got my piece of paper.
Oh.
So I said, okay, I will go get my piece of paper. And Judge Joseph is the only one that came to my graduation. But it was a neat time.
You've made a lot of contributions to the administration of the court and of law, or did over the years. What do you view as your most significant contribution?
That I was pig-headed enough to walk across that threshold. I was the first woman that had ever probably even applied, because they were just when I went into the court and told them I was interested in the job. So I think my legacy would be to the state bar that the women have been released from their bondage of just having one place to go in this world, either a secretary or mama, but now they can do anything. They can be a justice of the Supreme Court, they can be a district attorney, they can be on the U.S. Supreme Court. There is no limit to what women can do now. They broke through, and I was very, very pleased and honored that I helped break it in New Mexico.
Yeah. When you first, this is sort of a backtrack, when you first became a clerk of the court or a deputy clerk, were there very many women attorneys who practiced in front of the court?
Oh no. They had just started coming into their own when I came on board.
Okay.
Because ACLU was spreading across the country, and women were starting to appear in court. But like I say, we had a whole issue of protocol for the women. Dress code.
What was the code?
And the not arguments, but discussions we got into with the court. What do you want in the women attorneys? I said, you're the one that sets the standard here. And so they finally made up their mind about how the ladies were going to dress and not reveal too much, you know. So it was just really wonderful. But like I say, the door is open.
Yeah.
And when I came to work here, there were very, very few women attorneys, and all the positions were taken by the good ones were taken by the men.
And during your tenure as clerk, in addition to the women coming into their own, did you notice other changes in how things worked?
Oh yeah, I mean there were changes in the protocol with the court. Of course, we never did allow gum chewing in the courtroom. That was a no-no, and men always had to have coats on, and they still, I think, are adhering to that standard, a dress code for the ladies and gentlemen. But we've had near misses on swearing-in days where they just decided they're not going to do it. We had one swearing-in ceremony take place at the legislature, and I don't know what room that is, but anyhow, they rebelled. All the people they had black and had red roses on, and they refused to take the oath. And Judge McManus was on the bench, Chief Justice at the time, and Charlie Daniels was up in the at the top where the visitors sit. He called yelled out that Judge McManus was a fascist. And
Charlie Daniels did?
Huh?
Charlie yelled that?
Yes. I just couldn't believe it. And he said, "Wrap 'em to order," and it was Judge McManus's gavel, and so I whacked it, and the head fell off and just bounced. So it kind of broke the tension.
Well, did the people finally take the oath, or?
No, Judge McManus adjourned court and moved back to the courtroom. He says, "You're in my turf now. You either put on your shirt, your coats, and come take your oath," or he said, "You're not going to get admitted to the bar." And so they had a big meeting out under the flagpole, and those that wanted to be a member of our bar came in and took the oath.
We have a guest. Can we take a little break?
I heard you were in the building.
We just had a brief recess in the tape as Justice Cerna dropped by to say hello to Rosie. And I think we were in the question about how the practice or legal community changed during your tenure, and did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I just want the young lawyers to remember the oath that they take and abide about those rules, and to me that's very important. The practice of law is getting more difficult all the time because you've got a lot of rules, different courts. But like I say, you'll not have any problems as long as you follow the law and the rules of this court.
And any other aspects of your life or career that you'd like to share?
Well, I'm not through yet. I'm thinking about going back to school and working on my master's.
Really? In what?
Public administration. That's all I know.
When are you going to start this?
Well, now that everything seems to be kind of quieted down in my life, I'm going to get on the same program that I was before, where you can go at night and on weekends. Margaret Laragoiti and I were in the same class to begin with, so you always meet people. They're all very much younger than I am now. That's okay.
That's okay. And your legacy to the profession is having broken through the ceiling, right?
Yes.
And did
Being a role model.
And did you have fun?
Absolutely. It was right up until the day I walked out the front door. It was a real hoot. It was wonderful. Because I learn things as I go along. And I had such a good time. I worked very hard, 7 days a week most of the time, because I was on call to come down and file in petitions for writs at any time during the night even.
And it looks as if the court remembers your legacy, because who's that picture up on the wall? There we have Rosemarie Alderette at the prime of her life, or is now the prime of your life?
Oh, the whole 9 yards. I never did feel put upon or punished or, oh gee whiz, why is this happening to me? If it happened, we addressed it. Even when I brought those 2 kids up here,
Yeah, your
they
children.
had to adjust. And but like I said, I never felt like why me. Mine was mostly why not me, and do something about it.
That's a good outlook.
And so I did.
I guess we're at the end of our tether here.
Did I tell you enough, ma'am?
Well, if you've got some other little hidden secrets you'd like to share, I know that posterity would love to hear them.
You're going to have to wait a few years to find out how the University of New Mexico Law School started their library.
Oh,
But we can't go into that right now.
okay. Well, we'll come by again in 2 or 3 years. How's that?
Oh, that'll be nice.
Okay. Thank you so much for.
Can I tell you one thing before we cut it off?
Oh, yes.
I was signing acceptance. You have to, when you're taking over somebody else's job, you have to you do an inventory. And my inventory consisted of newspapers stuffed in the boxes where the books were supposed to be. That's all I can say, but it was quite an experience.
How'd the newspapers get there?
It was somebody earlier that had access to storage. I have no idea. I never would go ask the powers that were, and Mr. Green would have known, but he was on his way to retirement, and it was about, I just couldn't believe it, that I had been signing for those books every year.
Well, thank you, Rosie, and we'll look forward to another chat in 3 or 4 years, and you can tell us about the law school library.
Okay. I'd be happy to.